Welcome to this episode of Crossroad Connection. We're speaking out for those left unheard. My name is Art Van Walde, and I'm the host for this episode of Crossroad Connection. And today it's our privilege to have with us Richard Dama. He's the director of the Berrien County Juvenile Center. So welcome, Richard.
Thank you, Art. Very nice to be here.
Okay. Rich, can you tell us a bit about yourself and what it means to be the director of the Berrien County Juvenile Center? And yeah, just tell us a bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay. Well, actually, I'm on my third career. I'm a retired military officer. I spent 20 plus years in the Air Force in the field of nuclear weapons operations, command and control, and intelligence. Mm-hmm. The Air Force made me get an MBA. I have an MBA from Central Michigan University. Okay. So when I retired, I said, I have this thing, I probably ought to use it. So I went to work in industry as a logistics executive, and I hated every minute of it. I was there for 5 years, and my job was to figure out how to get 5,000 more cartons per shift through a sorting system that was already saturated. And working with boxes was just not my thing. And so I called my entire facility together and said, look, this is killing me, but here's what I'm going to do. You guys live, eat, and breathe logistics. You take care of the boxes, I'll take care of you. You let me know what you need to be successful, I'll make sure that you have that. And we went from middle to lower third of what we called the pyramid in that organization up to the upper quarter, if not third. So I was there for 5 years. They were opening a facility in Michigan. I grew up I went to high school and college in Lansing, Michigan State, and said, that's a great opportunity. Michigan is a good place to grow up. I enjoyed it there, so I volunteered to come here and help open the facility.
I have to stop you a second. So
sure.
You went to Michigan State.
Yes.
And you're wearing a blue tie.
Yeah.
Sorry, couldn't resist that.
I was going to put on a red tie for the chips. My wife goes, no power ties.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's quite all right. Yep. We moved here to Michigan. We got the center up and running, and was really doing a lot of soul searching during that time. That was like a 3-year period. And at the end of it, when I had what I felt fulfilled my commitment to the organization, decided to leave the company and go back to school and become what I'd always wanted to be, and that was a mental health therapist. So I went to Western Michigan, received my clinical credentials, received a master's degree in counselor education, counseling psychology, and then was in private practice in Detroit, living in Kalamazoo, driving 2 hours to get into my office in Detroit for a couple of years. And then one Sunday, my wife walks in with the newspaper and hands it to me with a advertisement circled and said, "You will apply for this job." And I looked at it, and it said clinical director, Berrien County Juvenile Center. And I told her, I don't know anything about kids. I mean, I own 2, but my experience and research and most of my work was with combat veterans, post-traumatic stress disorder. And she said, you will apply for that. It's at least an hour closer. So be careful what you ask for. So I applied for the job and was hired. And almost a year to the day after that, the director retired and was offered the position of director. So I took that for some reasons that we can get into in a few minutes, and never looked back. I've been the director going on 10 years. I knew within 6 months of arriving at the facility that I had found my passion. My passion was working with troubled youth, and I've never looked back. So I do that during the day, and I have a private practice in Kalamazoo in the evenings.
What ages are in the juvenile center there where you're at?
Okay. We have 2 basic programs in the building. We have secure detention on one side, which is, as the name implies, jail quality doors, constant video and audio surveillance, and intense staff supervision. The other side of the building, and that's pre-adjudication. We're a court-operated facility. So the youngsters are apprehended by law enforcement, accused of having committed a serious crime, we screen them. We don't accept everyone that's referred to us. So they have to pose a serious threat to the safety of the community or themselves before we'll take them. And then they stay in our facility long enough for the court to decide whether or not they committed the offense with which they're charged and are therefore delinquent or not. And then the court disposes of them. They'll either send them home on probation or whatever the court decides to do. And we have 16 beds on that side of the building. We house males and females. That's a co-ed facility. Average length of stay is about 3 weeks. The other side of the facility is an 18-bed long-term treatment facility for young men. We strictly males on that side of the building. And these gentlemen have been adjudicated a number of times. That's how they come to our attention. And we're usually their last opportunity to straighten up before the court sends them to longer-term, more secure placements out of county. So in answer to your question, the ages range, we've had youngsters as young as 8.
Oh, wow.
That's young. On secure detention. They were accused of committing a fairly heinous crime. To 17. 17-year-olds are usually there because they committed an offense, were adjudicated for an offense at a younger age and have since violated probation. But ordinarily 17-year-olds go to adult court. Average age in our facility on that side of the building is about 15 and a half. Okay? And on the other side of the building, we've had them as young as 12. We've accepted young men in our program as young as 12 to 17. Again, average age is about 15.
In 2008, Rich, the Berrien County Juvenile Center received a National Juvenile Detention Association's Award of Excellence. And it was as a premier juvenile detention program. And can you talk to us about that award? What does it mean to get that award?
Very happily so.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a complete surprise. The National Juvenile Detention Association is a member of an umbrella organization called the National Partnership for Juvenile Services. So there are a lot of other organizations, juvenile training, many organizations. And it was at the 2008 National Convention, I believe was in Indianapolis. And they went through a long introduction to this award, and the more they talked, the more I'm looking at my assistant director going, man, I don't know who they're talking about, but that sounds like they're doing exactly what we're doing.
And lo and behold, it's you.
And then they announced our facility's name, and we were just flabbergasted but elated. We run a treatment program called Rational Behavior Training in the facility, and we were, I believe, the 3rd facility in the country to adopt that particular program and philosophy.
Can you explain what that is to our audience, what the Rational Behavior Training Program is?
Sure. We are, as an entire facility, very clinically oriented, which makes us very different than most other juvenile centers or correctional or custodial institutions in the country. We believe that our youngsters are there because of having committed crimes, of course, but we believe that those behaviors stem from irrational criminal thinking. We're cognitive behavioral in our approach, which means we believe that people feel and behave the way they think. So if you think irrational, criminally oriented thoughts, you're almost certainly going to commit irrational criminal acts. And so our program zeroes in on the individuals, the youngsters in this case, thinking. We challenge their thinking based on their behavior. We have 5 to 6 categories of irrational thinking, and we can tell by a youngster's behavior or demeanor that they're engaging in fairy tale. This just isn't fair, this shouldn't be happening to me. Or doomsday, nothing ever works out for me, or whatever. And we challenge them. We say, you know, it appears that you're doomsdaying right now. What are you thinking? Or what were you thinking when you were committing that crime? And then we start to challenge them on that, saying, okay, well, this obviously didn't work out real well for you because you're here. How else could you have looked at that situation? What else could you have done? And then based on that, we start getting the youngsters to realize when they're thinking irrationally or when they're thinking criminally oriented thoughts, and to start challenging them themselves, and then replacing those thoughts with more pro-social thoughts and behaviors. So you change the thinking, the behaviors will follow.
What kind of success have you seen in this training, this rational behavior training?
Outstanding success. Again, on the detention side of the house, we only have the youngsters for about 3 weeks, which is very difficult to do any in-depth treatment. But the program itself sets up, from the moment the youngster walks through the front door, they are surrounded by adults who are passionate about working with troubled youth. But we're no nonsense. We explain, okay, you're here are the rules, here are the expectations for you, here's what you can expect from us, you need to hold us to these expectations, but when you violate the rules, you are going to be held accountable for those. And so we negatively consequence negative behaviors, and more importantly, we positively consequence positive behaviors.
Right.
And we try to do that 4 to 1. We try to catch a youngster doing something right for 4 times for every 1 time that we give them a negative consequence. And negative consequence starts out as maybe yelling at a staff member or another youth. Well, you've just earned a 5-minute timeout. And so they have to go to a neutral wall or corner, stand quietly, facing that wall or corner. And this isn't punishment. This is an opportunity for them. The fact that they're in a timeout, that they've earned a consequence, is a signal to them that my behavior was unacceptable. Therefore, my thinking that led to that behavior, something predated that behavior. Gives them an opportunity to calm down and question their thinking and behaviors that got them into that. At the end of the 5 minutes, then they come back to staff, and it's up to the youth to report to the staff what behaviors earned them that 5-minute timeout. And if they don't, they go back for another 5, they come back and report, and if by that time they can't identify it, then the staff will nudge them along. And then it can escalate from there.
That has to be a joy for your staff to see one of the youth come back and able to start identify what got them into that in that situation. Because once you can identify it, you can begin to change the behavior.
Absolutely. Well, the real joy comes in when you see a youngster come in. The scope of consequences go from a 5. If they refuse to do the 5, then they get a 30 and 5, which means they have to go to we have a secure hallway on detention. They go and they sit in a chair in the secure hallway by themselves. Again, not punishment, to think about their behaviors and to calm down, become more rational. When they're done with that, then they come out, they do the 5 minutes, and then they come back and report to the staff. It can escalate to a 30, 30, and 5 if they become aggressive or display aggressive behavior or threaten staff or other youngsters, then it goes to a 30, 30, and 5. They go to their room, we sanitize their room, we take everything out. They have to sit quietly and appropriately on their bunk for 30 minutes, come out, do 30 minutes in the hall, and then come out and do the 5 and report back to staff. I had to tell you that to now tell you what really excites us is when we have youngsters come in off the street who've never been in our facility before, who are completely out of control. They've been socialized to learn that violence and intimidation will get them what they want. So they come into our facility and they try the same thing that's worked with their parents, with their peers, with the community. They start to posture, they start to threaten or become physically aggressive, and we don't pick up the rope. We just say, you've earned this consequence, and we expect you to do it, and nothing else is going to happen for you until this goes on. And to see a youngster come in and in a week, the first week they're there, have 8, 9, 10, 30, 30, and 5s. And then the second week maybe have 2. or maybe not even a 30 and 5, maybe a 30 and 5. And then the next week to see a youngster maybe get 1 or 2 5-minute timeouts. So you see that transition from highly aggressive, angry, irrational, to a more calm, settled, thinking individual who is beginning to get the idea that there is a direct correlation between their actions and consequences, and oh yeah, a direct correlation between their thinking and their actions. And when you see the light go on in a youngster's head for the first time, get that aha moment,
That's
that's just, it's fantastic. It makes all the other unpleasant things just palatable, and it just juices you up. And when we have those moments, it's like instantaneous communication around the staff. It's just, everybody knows it, and everyone's excited about that.
Well, Richard, we're going to take a break here for a few moments.
Okay.
And when we come back, I'm going to want to talk with you about if you can maybe give us a story of someone that you have seen this training work so well with.
Sure.
And then I'm going to want to talk with you about the subject of restorative justice. So that's what we'll get to after the break. And our audience will see you in a few moments.
Stay connected to what's happening at Crossroad Bible Institute with Crossroad Network News. This free magazine is designed to keep you informed and inspired about what Christ Church is doing in prisons and jails. If you'd like a free subscription to Crossroad Network News, fill out the form online by visiting us at cbi.fm.
Welcome back to this episode of Crossroad Connection, and we have Richard Dama with us. He's the director of the Berrien County Juvenile Center, and we have been talking about the rational behavior training. And I'm wondering, Richard, if you can give us a story of someone that you can remember in the past 10 years that you've really seen the training that you do take hold of their life.
As far as the program itself, the immediate consequences, the first story that comes to mind is we had a youngster come in, and we're doing orientation with them and in the day room. And so all the other residents on detention can see out into the day room. And this particular youngster was fairly high and up in the hierarchy in one of the street gangs in the St. Joe Benton Harbor, Niles area. We also had another youngster there who was, for all practical purposes, a street enforcer for a rival gang. Extremely violent when he came in. Had been there going on just about 3 weeks. And again, as I was explaining in the first segment, almost constant 30 and 5s, behavioral interventions. And so we're explaining to this new youngster what the expectations were, and we saw this other youngster over there. I'm going to change the name. The staff goes, "Mario, come here. Explain to this gentleman how the 30 and 5s work." And without missing a beat, the street enforcer goes, "If you get a 5, just go ahead and do it. Just shut up, go ahead and do the 5, get it over with, because you're not getting out of here until you finish that 5. The judge can walk in with an order to release, and these guys aren't going to let you go anywhere until you finish the 5. It's not worth the heartache." And to see a youngster who, again, was just so reactively and proactively violent when they came in just 2 weeks ago, turn around and go, just work the program. And so, again, whether or not the cognitive part of the program had caught up with him, we saw the changes. And it was a different person that was telling this young man, just do the 5. And so that was just incredible. On the residential side, we have an excellent track record as far as youngsters going through our program and then leaving and then not recidivating, not committing additional crimes. We've had several youngsters just in the last couple of years get out, go back to high school, excel at sports, go on to college. We've had a few youngsters go to college, or go into the trades, and come back a year or two later, so, with their wife
Wow.
or child, and say, you know what, it didn't make sense at the time, but when I got out and I really started thinking about it, what I was going to do with the rest of my life, I started using the tools that you gave me, and they work. And here's my, now I'm a welder, or I'm doing that. I'm making a wonderful living. This is my wife and or child, and here's what. Thank you.
That has to be amazing for you, because at that moment you're realizing in your mind, we helped restore
Yes.
an individual. And that leads me to what I would love us to end our program with, talking about restorative justice.
Right.
Can you talk about how restorative justice is part of your program?
As I said before we went on camera, when I speak around the country, one of the first things I say is, I'm not in the punishment business. I'm in the restorative justice business. My goal is to take this criminally minded, irrationally thinking organism and turn them into a responsible, rational human being. And so everything we do in the facility is geared towards that. And a lot of that is getting them to realize and control their anger. And then we start working on, okay, when you act, you are not acting in a vacuum. Your behaviors are like dropping a pebble into a pond. The ripples spread out. So you're here, but think about the ripples that impacted your family and your friends. Think about the ripples that impacted your victims. Think about the ripples that are impacting your schoolmates, and on and on and on. Now, reverse the thought process and bring those ripples back in. How could you behave differently, or what could you do to change those negative ripples to positive ripples? So we get the youngsters to start thinking that they are members of a community, that their behaviors and actions do impact others, and to start taking responsibility for those actions and become responsible members of the community. And to do that, we have the youngsters give back to the community while they're in the program.
And how do they do that?
We do a lot of community service projects. Again, we're in Berrien County. Berrien County Youth Fair is a huge summer event.
Okay.
And so our residential youth will go out and clean up the fairgrounds during the horse show. That's huge. We've got these youngsters who perhaps never even seen a horse. They spent their entire lives in downtown Benton Harbor. Now they're out at the fairgrounds and they're mucking out stalls, and they're having a ball. We used to work with the Venetian Fair, Blossom Time Festival. A lot of the community festivals and activities will request the help from our residential youth. And they'll go out, set up, tear down, do trash patrol and things like that. In the fall, we have a number of elderly residents, citizens in our immediate vicinity of the Juvenile Center, and they just simply can't take care of the yard. They can't get out and rake, and so we will just send a crew out, and they'll look out and they'll see 5 or 6 youngsters in our uniforms with staff there, but they're raking leaves and trimming bushes and all of that. So, not expecting thanks, not looking for it, but giving back to the community, trying to inoculate the idea into them that negative behaviors, criminal behaviors can hurt the community as one individual, but as one individual, I can also make a positive impact in the community by my actions. And so giving back in that regard is a really serious foundation to the treatment plan.
And that's key because, just as their negative behavior has the ripple effects of negative actions, their positive behavior has ripple effects of good behavior that affects their family, their friends,
Exactly.
their schools, and they can see that.
But the point always comes back to, it's your choice. Where you are now is the sum total of all the choices you've ever made. If you continue to make those choices, you can see which direction your life is going to go. If you start making different choices now, the future is completely open to you. And again, when you see the light come on behind a kid's eyes and go, wow, I don't have to wind up in prison like my uncles or my father, my brother. I can make different choices. And then to see them start doing that is just, it makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, and then have them come back to you with their wife or their child or with the career that they're working in. I know for me as a pastor, it's always amazing to me, 5, 10 years later, someone will come up to me and say, hey, what you said or what you did, this is how it impacted. And it has to be a joy for you to say, wow, I made a positive impact in this kid's life. And not only that, now it's a positive impact in his wife's life, in his child's life, in his work environment.
And that's the pebble in the pond. Those ripples just keep going on long after you can even see them.
Okay. Before we end our episode here, I'm just wondering, do you have any statistics about how successful your program is?
In an average year, we'll have about 300 intakes. And I'm trying to think of last year's statistics. So we would have, I believe we have 10 or 12 who would have had 5 or more previous intakes, 7 or 8, 4 previous intakes. But when you get down to where the majority of the intakes that we've had during a year are 1 intake or maybe 2, that's showing us that we did something, something happened within the court system, which I have to give the family division and the family court a lot of huge credit because we work for them. But a huge amount of effort and resources goes into diversion, even trying to keep kids out of the system formally, or when they're in the formally in the system, to give them and their families the resources they need not to come back. And so when you see that the majority of your intakes in a year are they come through once or maybe twice, that's telling us that we're doing something, as opposed to previous years where we're giving out preferred customer cards, so they're there so often.
Your program's working.
It is, yes.
Awesome.
Very difficult to really say on statistics on the detention side. On the residential side, the success rate, meaning the youngster hasn't committed another crime, at least been caught committing another crime within 6 months, is low to middle 60% range. The programs that we're running on residential last year, we were in the 72% range, but we're trending upwards. And we've just added a new component of family treatment to the program that we think is going to pay off huge dividends down the road.
Thank you for coming. This has been educational, and I'm appreciative of what you are doing and how you are changing behavior of young people in our community. And I just want to thank you for your time with us today.
Art, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
And to our audience that is listening today, we thank you for listening. Until next time, we pray God's blessings upon your life.